Across the world, ancient myths have shaped cultures, beliefs, and the way people see the universe. From the scorching sands of Egypt to the icy fjords of Scandinavia, and from the vibrant lands of West Africa to the temples of Mesoamerica, every mythology tells a unique story about gods, heroes, and humanity's place in the cosmos. In this video, we'll explore 7 incredible mythologies, connecting their worlds and uncovering the timeless tales that continue to inspire us today. Egyptian mythology, explained, a story older than memory whispers through the desert winds. This is not just history, it's a lens into a civilization that saw the universe as a living, breathing tapestry. What secrets lie beneath Egypt's sands? What truths about chaos, order, and existence itself echo through its myths? Egyptian mythology isn't just stories. It's a profound system of cosmic principles, blending gods, humanity, and the rhythms of nature into one harmonious philosophy. While other mythologies show gods as distant or flawed, Egypt's deities embodied the cycles of life, order, and renewal. For over 3,000 years, this mythology evolved alongside a dynamic civilization, adapting to cultural shifts and conquests, while maintaining its core balance between Ma'at, order, and Isfet, chaos. This isn't just a historical journey, it's a chance to see the universe as the Egyptians did, interconnected, alive, and miraculous. If you love exploring the stories that shaped our world, don't forget to like this video, share it with others, and leave your thoughts in the comments below. And if you haven't already, hit subscribe to join me for more fascinating journeys like this one. Let's begin. Before time itself had meaning, before light pierced the infinite darkness, there was none. Not merely water, but the primordial, limitless ocean of potential, a swirling, formless chaos that contained within it the seeds of all creation. None was not emptiness, but a pregnant silence, a cosmic womb vibrating with unmanifested possibilities. Imagine an infinite dark ocean where no distinctions existed, no up or down, no light or darkness, no life or death. Just pure, undifferentiated potential. From this primordial chaos, the first god emerged, a self-created being known as Atum. The word Atum itself is profound, meaning complete or all. He was not created. He created himself, embodying the principle of self-generation and infinite potential. In some traditions, Atum is described as emerging from the waters of Nun as a primordial hill, the first solid ground rising from the infinite ocean, a metaphor that would later inspire the very geography of Egypt itself. He created through the power of thought and speech, a concept known as logos in later philosophical traditions. By naming something, by thinking it into existence, Atum began the process of differentiation that would ultimately create the universe. First, Atum created the primary pair of gods, Shu the air, and Tefnut the moisture. These were not merely elemental forces, but fundamental principles of existence. Shu represented the space between things, the principle of separation and distinction. Tefnut represents the binding, fluid energy that allows connection and transformation. Together, they represented the first step from undifferentiated chaos to a structured universe. Shu and Tefnut then gave birth to Geb, the earth, and Nut, the sky. Geb and Nut were lovers, constantly embracing but forcibly separated by their father Shu, who stood between them. This separation created the space where life could exist, a powerful metaphor for the delicate balance required for existence. The Egyptian understanding of creation was cyclical, not linear. Each day was a reenactment of the original creation, with the sun, god Ra, making his journey across the sky, battling the forces of chaos and being reborn each morning. This daily cycle mirrored the larger cosmic cycles of creation, destruction, and renewal. The concept of Ma'at, the fundamental order of the universe, emerged from these creation myths. Ma'at was more than a principle. It was a living force that maintained balance, preventing the return to the formless chaos of Nun. The pharaohs were considered the earthly embodiments of Mayat, responsible for maintaining cosmic and social order. The gods were not merely anthropomorphic beings, but representations of natural and metaphysical principles. Each deity had a specific role in maintaining the delicate balance of existence. Some protected against chaos, some facilitated transformation, some represented creative principles, while others embodied destructive forces necessary for renewal. Take, for example, the complex relationship between Osiris, god of fertility and resurrection, Set, god of chaos and destruction, and Horus, god of kingship in the sky. Their ongoing conflict was not just a mythological narrative, but a profound exploration of the tensions between order and chaos, life and death, stability and change. The Egyptian pantheon was not a rigid hierarchy, but a dynamic, interconnected system. Gods could merge, separate, take on new attributes and transform, reflecting the fluid nature of existence itself. A god might have multiple aspects, multiple names, multiple roles, just as human experience is multifaceted and ever-changing. Imagine the universe as the Egyptians saw it, not a mechanical system, but a living, breathing organism. The sky was not an empty vastness, but a living goddess Nut, who swallowed the sun each evening and gave birth to it each morning. The earth was not just a physical space, but a god, Geb, with consciousness, desires, and relationships. This was a worldview that saw divinity not as something separate from the physical world, but as the very essence of physical existence. Every rock, every river, every star was alive with divine consciousness. Humans were not separate from this divine landscape, but integral participants in an ongoing cosmic drama. As we delve deeper into Egyptian mythology, remember, these are not just stories. They are sophisticated philosophical explorations of existence, encoded in mythological language. They ask the most fundamental questions. How does something emerge from nothing? What maintains order in a universe constantly threatened by chaos? What is the nature of creation, of consciousness, of renewal? The answers lie in the myths, waiting to be understood, not just with the intellect, but with the imagination, with a sense of wonder that transcends literal interpretation. Gods were not distant, untouchable entities, but living, breathing forces that pulsed through every aspect of existence. Each deity was a complex character, not simply a god of one thing, but a multifaceted being whose influence stretched across the boundaries of natural and supernatural realms. At the heart of the Egyptian pantheon stood Ra, the sun god, but to call him simply a sun god would be like calling the ocean a mere puddle. Ra was the embodiment of creation, movement, and eternal renewal. Each night, he would journey through the underworld in his solar boat, battling the chaos serpent Apophis, representing the eternal struggle between order and destruction. Imagine the nightly journey. Ra, surrounded by protective deities, navigating through dark caverns filled with dangerous creatures. Each segment of his journey represented a different hour of the night, each with its own challenges, its own guardians and enemies. This was not just a mythological narrative, but a profound allegory for the human journey through darkness, struggle, and eventual rebirth. Ra's importance cannot be overstated. He was not just a celestial body, but the source of life itself. Each morning, his emergence was a recreation of the world, a daily renewal of cosmic order. Pharaohs would often combine their names with Ra, such as Rameses, meaning Ra is born, seeking to embody his creative and life-giving power. If Ra represented the daily cycle of creation, Osiris embodied the deeper, more mysterious cycle of death and rebirth. His myth is perhaps the most powerful in Egyptian mythology, a story of murder, dismemberment, and resurrection that became a fundamental template for understanding human transformation. Murdered by his brother Set, Osiris was cut into 14 pieces and scattered across Egypt. His wife Isis, through her magical powers and unwavering love, gathered these pieces and resurrected him, if only temporarily. This myth was far more than a simple tale of familial conflict. It was a sophisticated exploration of how life emerges from destruction, how wholeness can be reconstructed from fragmentation. The Osiris myth became the foundation of Egyptian beliefs about the afterlife. Every deceased person was associated with Osiris, with the hope of resurrection and eternal life. Mummification, elaborate burial practices, and the complex rituals of the Book of the Dead all stemmed from this fundamental mythological narrative. Isis emerged as one of the most powerful and complex goddesses in the Egyptian pantheon. Far more than a mere wife or mourner, she was a symbol of magical power, maternal love, and strategic intellect. Her ability to resurrect Osiris, to protect her son Horus, and to outwit even the most powerful gods demonstrated a form of power that transcended physical might. In the Isis myth, we see a profound understanding of feminine power, not as a passive force, but as an active, transformative energy. She used her intelligence, her magical knowledge, and her deep emotional capacity to navigate complex challenges. Her worship would eventually spread far beyond Egypt, becoming one of the most widespread religious cults in the ancient Mediterranean world. While many gods represented cosmic principles, Anubis occupied a unique space as the guardian between the world of the living and the dead. With the head of a jackal and the body of a human, Anubis was the god of mummification and the protector of souls in their journey through the underworld. In the critical moment of judgment, Anubis would weigh the deceased's heart against the feather of Maat, determining whether the soul was worthy of eternal peace or would be consumed by Amit, the devourer of souls. This was not mere mythological drama, but a profound exploration of personal accountability, of the weight of one's actions, extending beyond physical life. Pharaohs were considered living gods, embodiments of Horus on earth. Heroes like Imhotep, who began as a mortal and was later deified, demonstrated that divine status could be achieved through wisdom, innovation, and service. The story of Imhotep is particularly fascinating. Originally a historical figure, a brilliant architect, physician, and advisor to the pharaoh, he was so revered that he was eventually worshipped as a god of medicine and wisdom. This reflects a fundamental Egyptian belief that the potential for divine qualities exists within human beings. Egyptian gods were not isolated beings, but part of an intricate, often tumultuous family network. Their relationships were as complex as human relationships, filled with love, betrayal, competition, and reconciliation. The myth of Horus and Set, for instance, represents more than a simple conflict. It is an exploration of legitimate succession, of the tension between order and chaos, of how new systems of power are established. What emerges from these stories is not a static pantheon, but a living, breathing mythological system. These were not simply explanations of natural phenomena, but sophisticated philosophical and psychological explorations. Each myth was a mirror, reflecting the complexity of human experience, our struggles, our transformations, our eternal quest for meaning. As we delve into these stories, we are not just learning about ancient beliefs. We are witnessing a profound attempt to understand the fundamental nature of existence, its cycles of creation and destruction, its delicate balance, its mysterious, transformative power. The gods of Egypt whisper to us across millennia, inviting us to see beyond the surface, to understand that mythology is not about supernatural beings, but about the deepest truths of human experience. Religion was not a weekly practice or a set of abstract beliefs, but a living, breathing system that governed social structures, daily activities, and the very conception of reality. Egyptian temples were far more than places of worship. They were cosmic machines, precisely designed to channel divine energy, to maintain the delicate balance between the human and divine worlds. Each temple was a microcosm of the universe, a living organism with its own ecosystem of priests, rituals, and sacred responsibilities. Take the Temple of Karnak, a sprawling complex that took over 2,000 years to complete. Imagine walking through its massive hypostyle hall, enormous columns rising like petrified forests, each carved with intricate hieroglyphs telling stories of divine interactions. The very architecture was a form of worship, a three-dimensional text that spoke of cosmic principles. Priests were not mere intermediaries, but highly trained specialists. They were astronomers, mathematicians, healers, and keepers of sacred knowledge. Their daily rituals were not simple prayers, but complex performances designed to maintain cosmic order. Each morning they would symbolically recreate the act of creation, ensuring the continuation of universal harmony. The concept of Ma'at, divine order and balance, was not an abstract philosophical idea, but a practical daily concern. Every ritual, every offering, every religious practice was designed to support this fundamental principle. In the Temple of Ra at Heliopolis, priests would perform the opening of the mouth ceremony daily. This was not a metaphorical ritual, but a precise, complex procedure believed to maintain the life force of the divine statues. Imagine a priest dressed in pure white linen, using specially crafted bronze tools to symbolically open the statue's mouth, allowing it to breathe, to speak, to receive offerings. Offerings were a form of communication with the gods, a sophisticated exchange that went far beyond simple gift-giving. Different gods required different offerings based on their nature and domain. Osiris might receive agricultural products, symbolizing fertility and renewal. Sekhmet, the lion-headed goddess of war, might receive wine-like substances that represented blood. These were not arbitrary practices, but deeply symbolic interactions. An offering of bread was not just food, but a representation of the agricultural cycle, of human labor, of the transformation from raw grain to sustaining nourishment. An offering of incense was a way of purifying space, of creating a bridge between the physical and spiritual realms. Egyptian religious life was punctuated by elaborate festivals that were far more than mere celebrations. They were cosmic reenactments, moments when mythological time would intersect with human time. The festival of Opet, celebrated in Thebes, was a prime example. For several weeks, the statues of Amun, his wife Mut, and their son Khonsu would be carried in a grand procession from Karnak to Luxor Temple. This was not just a parade, but a profound ritual of renewal. The pharaoh would be symbolically reborn, reaffirming his divine status and the cosmic order. No aspect of Egyptian religious practice was more complex and sophisticated than their approach to death. Contrary to popular belief, Egyptian funeral practices were not about preserving a body, but about ensuring a successful journey through the afterlife. Mummification was an intricate, months-long process that was part medical procedure, part spiritual ritual. Each step was imbued with deep symbolic meaning. The removal of internal organs represented a profound transformation. The precise wrapping techniques, the amulets placed between layers of bandages, the elaborate coffins, each element was a carefully designed spiritual technology. The Book of the Dead was not a single text, but a collection of spells and instructions for navigating the afterlife. Imagine a traveler equipped with a complex map, with incantations that could transform obstacles, with knowledge that could outwit spiritual guardians. While we often speak of Egyptian mythology as a unified system, the reality was far more nuanced. Different regions had their own local gods, their own interpretations of cosmic principles. A deity might be viewed differently in Memphis than in Thebes, with local myths adding layers of complexity to the broader mythological narrative. What emerges from this exploration is a profound spiritual technology that was centuries ahead of its time. These were not primitive beliefs, but sophisticated systems for understanding consciousness, energy, and the interconnectedness of all things. The Egyptian approach to spirituality was holistic, connecting the individual to the community to the cosmic order, the physical to the spiritual. Every ritual, every practice was an attempt to maintain balance, to support the continuous recreation of the universe. As we reflect on these practices, we are invited to see beyond our modern, fragmented understanding of spirituality. The Egyptians understood something fundamental, that the divine is not separate from life, but its very essence. Egyptian mythology was never about simple narratives or linear stories. At its core, it was a profound philosophical exploration of the fundamental tensions that define existence. These themes were not abstract concepts, but living, breathing principles that pulse through every myth, every ritual, every understanding of the universe. The most fundamental theme in Egyptian mythology was the delicate dance between creation and destruction. Unlike many mythological systems that saw these as opposing forces, Egyptian thought understood them as complementary, essential aspects of a single cosmic process. Ra's nightly journey through the underworld exemplifies this principle perfectly. Each night, as the sun god traveled through the dark realm, he would battle Apophis, the serpent of chaos. This was not a simple good versus evil narrative, but a complex exploration of how destruction is necessary for renewal. Apophis was not an absolute evil, but a necessary force that challenged and thus renewed the cosmic order. Consider the myth of the Eye of Ra, a powerful goddess who could transform from a nurturing, life-giving force to a destructive, nearly apocalyptic entity. When sent to punish humanity, she became Sekhmet, the lioness goddess whose rage could nearly destroy the world. Yet, this same destructive power could be transformed and redirected, demonstrating the fluid nature of cosmic energies. Egyptian mythology offered a nuanced exploration of human agency within a predetermined cosmic order. The concept of Heka, magical power or life force, suggested that humans were not passive subjects of divine will, but active participants in cosmic processes. The story of Pharaoh Thutmose III provides a compelling illustration. While his destiny as a ruler seemed predetermined, his personal choices, strategic thinking, and individual character played a crucial role in shaping that destiny. The gods provided a framework, but human action determined the specific manifestation of that framework. No theme was more central to Egyptian mythology than transformation. This was not merely a philosophical concept, but a fundamental understanding of reality. Death was not an end, but a transition. Destruction was not final, but a necessary step in renewal. Osiris embodied this principle most powerfully. Murdered, dismembered, and then resurrected, he became the archetypal figure of transformation. His myth suggested that wholeness could be rebuilt from fragmentation, that life emerges from destruction, that defeat is not final, but a stage of renewal. Egyptian mythology's approach to world-ending scenarios was profoundly different from many other mythological traditions. The end was not a final destruction, but a reset, a return to the primordial state of Nun, from which a new cycle of creation would emerge. The destruction of humanity. Myth provides a powerful example. In this narrative, the gods become frustrated with human disobedience and decide to destroy humanity. However, this destruction is not permanent. It is a cleansing, a renewal, a way to reset the cosmic balance. Ra sends the goddess Sekhmet to punish humanity, but her destructive rage nearly destroys everything. Only through a clever intervention, flooding the fields with red-dyed beer which Sekhmet mistakes for blood, is the destruction halted. This myth is not about absolute annihilation, but about the delicate balance between divine punishment and mercy, destruction and renewal. In the Egyptian worldview, endings were never truly final. The sun would die each night but be reborn each morning. Humans would die, but their soul would continue its journey. The world might face destruction, but this destruction was merely a prelude to recreation. This understanding offered a profound source of hope and resilience. It suggested that no situation was truly hopeless, that transformation was always possible, that the darkest moment was simply a stage in a larger cycle of renewal. What emerges from these themes is a mythology that was far more than a collection of stories. It was a sophisticated philosophical system that addressed the most fundamental questions of existence. How do order and chaos coexist? What is the nature of transformation? How do individual actions interact with cosmic principles? What gives meaning in a universe of constant change? The answers were not provided through abstract theological statements, but through rich, complex narratives that invited multiple interpretations, that respected the complexity of human and divine experience. As we stand thousands of years removed from these myths, they continue to whisper their wisdom. They remind us that life is not a linear journey, but a cyclical dance, that destruction can be a form of creation, that endings are merely transitions, that the universe is far more mysterious and interconnected than our limited perceptions can comprehend. In the words of an ancient Egyptian inscription, "To know the way, walk the way." Egyptian mythology was not just about understanding cosmic principles, but about living them, experiencing them, becoming them. Mythology does not truly die. It transforms, migrates, seeps into the collective consciousness of humanity, reshaping itself through time while maintaining its fundamental essence. Egyptian mythology, in particular, has proven to be an extraordinary vessel of wisdom. A living, breathing, philosophical system that continues to influence human thought in ways both subtle and profound. The impact of Egyptian mythology extends far beyond historical curiosity. Its influence can be traced through philosophy, art, psychology, and even modern scientific understanding. Carl Jung, the legendary psychologist, drew extensively from Egyptian mythological archetypes in developing his theories of the collective unconscious. The complex symbolism of Egyptian myths provided him with a rich language for understanding the deeper layers of human psychology. In the realm of philosophy, Egyptian concepts of cyclical time and interconnected cosmic principles have found resonance with modern quantum physics. The Egyptian understanding of reality as a fluid, interconnected system, where observer and observed are deeply intertwined, predates by thousands of years similar insights emerging from contemporary scientific research. That Egyptian mythology is not a dead system of beliefs, but a living philosophical tradition. It continues to speak to fundamental human experiences, our quest for meaning, our struggle with transformation, our desire to understand our place in the cosmic order. These myths remind us that understanding is not about finding absolute answers, but about remaining open to mystery, to complexity, to the endless dance of creation and destruction. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed exploring these fascinating mythologies, Egyptian, Slavic, Norse, Greek, Celtic, Yoruba, and Aztec, don't forget to give this video a like, share it with others who love diving into ancient stories, and subscribe to the channel for more captivating myths and legends. Hit the bell icon so you never miss an update. From the sun-drenched sands of Egypt and the gods who ruled the Nile, we now journey northward into the misty forests of Eastern Europe, where the myths of the Slavic people bring to life a world of spirits, magic, and ancient deities. In ancient Slavic forests, there lived a people who saw magic in every rustle of leaves and divinity in each ray of sunlight. Our tale begins with a story passed down through generations, speaking of Svarog, the celestial smith, who struck his divine hammer against the anvil of creation, sending sparks into the darkness that would become the stars we see today. This myth, like countless others in Slavic mythology, reflects the deep connection between the natural world and the divine that characterized the beliefs of the ancient Slavic peoples. The Slavic mythological tradition emerged among the early Slavic peoples who inhabited vast territories stretching from the Baltic Sea to the Carpathian Mountains and from the Vistula River to the Dnieper. These beliefs took root during the pre-Christian era, flourishing roughly between the 6th and 9th centuries CE, though their origins reach back into the mists of time immemorial. Unlike the well-documented mythologies of Greece or Rome, Slavic mythology was primarily preserved through oral tradition. It was the framework through which they understood their world and their place within it. Their myths explained natural phenomena, guided social behavior, and provided comfort in the face of life's greatest mysteries. The gods weren't distant figures residing in unreachable heavens. They were present in every aspect of daily life, from the morning dew, the tears of divine beings, to the thunder in storm clouds. In the beginning, so the ancient Slavs believed, there was nothing but the endless waters of primordial chaos. Rod, the supreme creator god, emerged from this void, bringing with him the golden egg of existence. Within this egg lay all the potential of the universe waiting to unfold. When Rod broke the egg, its shell formed the dome of the sky and the bowl of the earth, while its contents spilled forth to create all living things. From the divine breath of Rod came the first gods, Svarog, the celestial smith, Perun, the thunderer, and Veles, the shepherd of souls. These beings would become central figures in the cosmic drama that would unfold. The creation myth speaks of how Svarog forged the sun and hung it in the sky, while his children helped shape the world into its current form. The ancient Slavs believed that the world was organized in 3 levels: the heavenly realm, Prav, where the gods dwelled, the middle world, Yav, where humans lived, and the underworld, Nav, where the dead resided and certain supernatural beings made their home. These realms were connected by the world tree, a mighty oak whose roots reached into the underworld while its branches touched the heavens. Unlike the strictly hierarchical pantheons of some other cultures, the Slavic gods operated in a more fluid system of relationships and responsibilities, though certain deities held particularly prominent positions. Perun, the thunder god, emerged as one of the most revered deities in the Slavic pantheon. Wielding his mighty axe that brought lightning and thunder, he rode through the heavens in a chariot drawn by a divine horse. As the god of warriors and rulers, Perun represented divine authority and justice. His sacred tree was the oak, and his symbols included the eagle, bull, and axe. Many ancient Slavic settlements featured wooden idols of Perun atop hills, where sacrifices and ceremonies would be performed in his honor. In eternal opposition to Perun stood Veles, the god of the underworld, cattle, magic, and wealth. This complex deity represented both the fearsome aspects of death and the nurturing forces of nature. While Perun ruled the heavens, Veles dwelled in the watery depths below, creating a cosmic duality that explained many natural phenomena. Their conflict, Perun's lightning striking down from above, Veles rising from below in the form of serpents or dragons, was seen as the source of storms and the changing of seasons. Makosh, the only major female deity in the pantheon, represented Mother Earth herself. She was the goddess of fertility, women's works, and fate. Her presence in the pantheon reflects the important role of women in Slavic society, as she protected spinning, weaving, and childbirth. According to myth, she would walk the earth at night, spinning the thread of human fate. Other significant deities included Svarog, the celestial smith and father of gods, who forged the sun and taught humans the art of blacksmithing. His son, Svarojic, became identified with the sun itself and was often called Dazbog, the giver of wealth and light. Stribog, the god of winds, who commanded his grandchildren, the winds of the 8 directions, to bring weather both fair and foul to the mortal world. Simagl, the winged dog-lion who guarded the tree of life and the realm of the gods, preventing chaos from entering the ordered universe. The relationships between these deities were complex and often reflected natural cycles. For example, the changing of seasons was explained through the interaction between Jarilo, spring and fertility, and Morana, winter and death. Their annual cycle of marriage, death, and rebirth explained the eternal cycle of the seasons. Lesser deities and spirits also played crucial roles in daily life. The Rozhanitsi were female spirits who determined fate at birth, while the Vodyanoi ruled over lakes and rivers. Domestic spirits like the domovoi protected households, while forest spirits like the leshy guarded nature's wild places. This divine hierarchy was maintained through regular worship and sacrifice. Each deity had their special days, required offerings, and specific places of worship. Major festivals marked important astronomical and agricultural events, during which the entire community would gather to honor the gods and ensure their continued favor. The relationship between gods and humans was seen as reciprocal. The gods provided protection and prosperity, while humans maintained cosmic order through proper worship and behavior. This understanding created a deep sense of responsibility among the Slavic peoples to uphold their part of this divine contract. Among the rich tapestry of Slavic mythology, heroes emerged as bridges between the divine and mortal realms, their tales serving as powerful examples of virtue, courage, and the complex relationship between humans and their gods. These heroes, while not demigods in the Greek sense, often possessed supernatural abilities or divine favor that set them apart from ordinary mortals. Volga Sviatoslavich stands as one of the most renowned bogatirs, warrior heroes in Slavic legend. Born from the union of a princess and a magical serpent, he possessed the ability to shapeshift into various animals. His tales speak of his wisdom in warfare and his magical prowess, demonstrating the Slavic ideal of a hero who succeeds through both strength and cunning. One famous tale recounts how he transformed his entire army into ants to infiltrate an enemy fortress, showcasing the value placed on clever strategy over brute force. Ilya Muromets, perhaps the most famous of all Slavic heroes, embodies the common theme of transformation and divine blessing. According to legend, he sat paralyzed for 33 years until he was healed by traveling pilgrims, who gave him not just the ability to walk, but supernatural strength. His subsequent adventures, defending Russes from various threats, both mundane and magical, represent the triumph of righteousness and the power of divine favor. Notably, his tales often emphasize his humble origins and moral integrity over his physical prowess. Mikula Selyaninowicz presents a unique figure in the pantheon of heroes, a peasant whose strength comes from his connection to the earth itself. His most famous tale involves his encounter with Volga, where his simple plough proves too heavy for Volga's entire army to lift, while Mikula handles it with ease. This story reflects the deep respect for agricultural life in Slavic culture, and suggests that true power comes from connection to the land rather than martial prowess alone. Mythical creatures and monsters. The Slavic mythological world teemed with supernatural beings that inhabited every corner of the natural world, from the depths of forests to domestic hearths. These creatures represented both the nurturing and destructive aspects of nature, as well as the mysterious forces that the ancient Slavs believed influenced their daily lives. The firebird, Zhar Ptitsa, stands as one of the most majestic creatures in Slavic mythology. This magical bird, whose feathers gleam with golden or silver light, appears in numerous tales as both a blessing and a curse to those who pursue it. Its feathers shine with magical light even when removed, but attempting to capture the firebird often leads heroes on dangerous quests that test their character and resolve. Dragons in Slavic mythology took various forms, with the most prominent being the Zmai. Unlike Western dragons, the Zmai could often take human form and was known to seduce young women. These creatures were typically three-headed, could fly and breathe fire. While usually antagonistic, some tales feature Zmai as protective spirits of specific locations or even as heroes' allies, reflecting the complex nature of Slavic supernatural beings. The Rusalka, water spirits of drowned maidens, represented the dangerous allure of natural bodies of water. During spring and summer, they were said to leave their watery homes to swing on tree branches and comb their long green hair, occasionally luring young men to their doom. Their existence served as both a cautionary tale about the dangers of water and a way to explain mysterious drownings. Among the most intriguing creatures was the Baba Yaga, a supernatural being who defied simple categorization. Neither purely good nor evil, she lived in a hut that stood on chicken legs and could rotate to face approaching visitors. The hut was surrounded by a fence made of human bones topped with skulls. While she would eat those who failed her tests, she also often aided heroes who showed proper respect and passed her trials, providing them with magical items or vital information for their quests. Unlike some mythological systems with clear apocalyptic narratives, Slavic mythology viewed time as cyclical rather than linear. However, they did maintain complex beliefs about cosmic battles and world renewal cycles. The eternal conflict between Perun and Veles served as a metaphor for this cosmic cycle. Their battles, manifesting as storms and natural disasters, were seen not as steps toward a final end, but as necessary phases in the ongoing renewal of the world. Each winter, when Veles appeared to gain the upper hand, was followed by spring's triumph as Perun's lightning drove the serpent god back to the underworld. The most significant end times concept in Slavic mythology involved the idea of cosmic order versus chaos. It was believed that the proper observation of rituals and maintenance of traditional ways helped maintain the world's stability. Major festivals, particularly those marking solar events like solstices, were seen as crucial moments when the barriers between worlds thinned and cosmic order needed to be reinforced through proper ceremony. As we conclude our journey through the rich landscape of Slavic mythology, we find ourselves reflecting on its enduring relevance to modern life. These ancient tales and beliefs, far from being mere historical curiosities, continue to offer profound insights into human nature and our relationship with the world around us. The Slavic mythological tradition stands out for several unique characteristics. First, its emphasis on the interconnectedness of all things, from the smallest household spirit to the mightiest god, reflects a worldview that resonates with modern holistic and ecological thinking. Second, its moral complexity, where figures like Baba Yaga can be both helpful and harmful depending on circumstances, speaks to a sophisticated understanding of the nuances of human existence. The survival and adaptation of Slavic mythology through centuries of change demonstrate its fundamental resilience and relevance. Despite historical challenges, including the advent of Christianity and modern secularization, these ancient beliefs have maintained their power to inspire, teach, and connect people to their cultural roots. The mythology's emphasis on proper behavior, respect for natural forces, and the importance of maintaining harmony between different realms of existence offers valuable lessons for contemporary challenges. In an era of environmental crisis and social upheaval, the Slavic understanding of the delicate balance between order and chaos, respect and disgrace, and human and natural worlds provides wisdom that remains remarkably pertinent. Perhaps most significantly, Slavic mythology reminds us that the mysterious and magical aren't distant or separate from daily life. In the ancient Slavic worldview, every corner of existence held potential for wonder and significance. From the hearth fire to the deepest forest, from the simplest household task to the grandest celestial event. This perspective offers a compelling alternative to modern tendencies toward disenchantment and disconnection from the natural world. As we face the challenges of the 21st century, the stories, beliefs, and values preserved in Slavic mythology continue to offer guidance, inspiration, and a sense of connection to both our ancestors and the eternal cycles of nature. In their retelling and reinterpretation, these ancient myths remain alive, evolving while maintaining their essential truths, demonstrating that the wisdom of our ancestors continues to light the way forward. Leaving behind the mysterious domovoi and forest spirits of Slavic lore, we head even farther north into the icy realms of Scandinavia, where Norse mythology unveils gods who battle giants and prepare for the ultimate end, Ragnarok. In the vast, frozen landscapes where glaciers scrape against ancient stone and northern lights dance like spectral warriors across midnight skies, there lies a mythology more profound than mere stories, a cosmic tapestry woven from courage, tragedy, and inexorable fate. Norse mythology is not a collection of quaint folktales, but a philosophical and spiritual ecosystem that emerged from the harsh Nordic environments. Lands where survival demanded resilience, where winters were unforgiving, and where humans and nature existed in a delicate, often brutal balance. Born from the frigid fjords of Scandinavia, stretching from modern-day Norway and Sweden to Denmark, these myths represented more than religious beliefs. They were a complex philosophical system, a method of understanding the world's intricate mechanisms, and a profound exploration of human nature. Unlike Mediterranean mythologies that often portrayed gods as distant, perfect beings, Norse mythology presented deities who were simultaneously powerful and flawed, gods who knew they were destined to fall, who understood their own mortality, and who faced their inevitable doom with dignity and courage. What makes Norse mythology uniquely captivating is its fundamental acknowledgement of impermanence. While other mythological traditions often depicted eternal divine realms, the Norse conception included Ragnarok, a prophesied apocalypse where even the gods would be destroyed, only to be potentially reborn. This cycle of destruction and renewal reflects a deeply philosophical worldview that sees endings not as final conclusions, but as transformative moments pregnant with potential. The mythology's foundation rests upon Yggdrasil, the cosmic world tree that connects 9 distinct realms. Imagine a vast, eternal tree whose branches and roots span the entire universe, connecting the divine Asgard, the mortal Midgard, the chaotic Jotunheim, and several other metaphysical domains. This wasn't just a geographical metaphor, but a profound representation of interconnectedness, suggesting that all existence, no matter how disparate, remains fundamentally linked. Our journey through Norse mythology will traverse these interconnected realms. Before time itself took shape, before light pierced darkness, there existed only Ginnungagap, the great yawning void. This was not mere emptiness, but a pregnant silence vibrating with potential, a cosmic womb waiting to give birth to existence itself. In the beginning, 2 fundamental realms flanked this primordial chasm: Niflheim, the world of ice and primordial cold, and Muspelheim, the realm of fire and primal heat. These were not merely geographical locations, but elemental forces that would dance and clash to create the very fabric of existence. From the intersection of these polar opposites emerged Ymir, the primordial giant, a being of such immensity that he contained within himself the seeds of all future creation. Ymir was neither fully alive nor fully dead, but a living manifestation of raw, chaotic potential. Born from the melting ice, where the freezing winds of Niflheim met the scorching breath of Muspelheim, Ymir represented the first spark of conscious existence. Alongside Ymir came Audumla, the primordial cow, a remarkable creature whose milk would nourish the first being and whose actions would shape the early cosmos. With her warm tongue, Audumla began licking the salty, frost-covered stones of Ginnungagap, gradually revealing something extraordinary: Buri, the first of the gods. Buri was no ordinary divine being. Slowly emerging from the ice, licked into existence by Audumla's persistent tongue, he represented the first moment of intentional creation, the point where chaos began to transform into order. From Buri would descend the first generation of gods, Bor and his sons, including the most famous of all, Odin, These early gods were not content to merely exist. They looked upon Ymir, the primordial giant from whom all giants would descend, and saw both a threat and an opportunity. In the moment that would define the cosmic order, Odin and his brothers made a momentous decision. They would kill Ymir and use his body to construct the universe itself. The murder of Ymir was no simple act of violence, but a profound act of creation. His blood became the oceans, his flesh the earth, his bones the mountains. His skull was lifted to create the vast dome of the sky, held up by 4 dwarfs representing the 4 cardinal directions. His eyebrows were used to create a protective wall around Midgard, the realm of humans, defending it from the chaotic forces that constantly threatened its existence. This act of cosmic construction revealed a fundamental principle of Norse mythology. Creation is inseparable from destruction. To build, something must first be broken down. The universe is not a static construct, but a dynamic, ever-changing system where boundaries are constantly negotiated. The newly formed world was organized into 9 distinct realms, all connected by Yggdrasil, the world tree. These realms were not merely physical locations, but complex ecological and spiritual ecosystems. Asgard, realm of the Aesir gods, a place of divine power and celestial magnificence. Midgard, the world of humans, positioned at the center of the cosmic structure. Jotunheim, home of the giants, representing raw, untamed natural forces. Alfheim, realm of the light elves, associated with beauty and artistic creation. Svartalfheim, domain of the dark elves and dwarfs, masters of craft and metalwork. Niflheim, the primordial world of ice, now existing as a realm of mist and cold. Muspelheim, the fire realm, home to fire giants and elemental destruction. Vanaheim, homeland of the Vanir gods, associated with fertility and nature. Helheim, the underworld ruled by Hel, where most of the dead would reside. Each realm had its own logic, its own inhabitants, and its own relationship to the others. They were not isolated domains, but intricate parts of a living, breathing cosmic system. Giants might wage war against gods, elves might craft magical items, and the boundaries between these realms were constantly in flux. The establishment of this cosmic order was not a one-time event, but an ongoing process. The gods were not omnipotent rulers, but custodians of a delicate balance. They knew that Ragnarok, the prophesied end of the current cosmic cycle, was inevitable. Their role was not to prevent this ultimate destruction, but to maintain order and dignity in the face of certain doom. This understanding of cosmic structure was deeply philosophical. At the center of the Norse pantheon stands Odin, the All-Father, a figure of profound complexity whose very nature embodies the multifaceted character of Norse mythology itself. One-eyed, having sacrificed his right eye to drink from Mimir's well of wisdom, Odin represents an unquenchable thirst for knowledge that transcends physical sacrifice. His endless quest for understanding is symbolized by his ravens, Hugin the thought and Munin the memory, who fly across the 9 worlds each day, bringing him news of all that transpires. Odin's character defies simple categorization. He is simultaneously a warrior king who presides over Valhalla, gathering fallen heroes for the final battle of Ragnarok, a wandering seeker of wisdom, often traveling in disguise among mortals, a master of magic willing to hang himself from Yggdrasil for 9 days and nights to gain the knowledge of runes. A patron of poets, having stolen the mead of poetry from the giants. A father figure whose decisions often lead to tragic consequences. His wife, Frigg, queen of the Aesir, possesses the power of prophecy, yet remains silent about what she sees. A silence that becomes particularly poignant in the story of her son Baldur's death. As a goddess of motherhood, marriage, and destiny, Frigg represents the complex interweaving of domestic power with cosmic significance. Thor, the red-bearded thunderer, wielder of Mjolnir, stands as perhaps the most beloved of Norse gods. Unlike his father Odin's complex machinations, Thor represents a more straightforward form of divine power. His battles against the giants are legendary, particularly his encounters with the Midgard serpent, Jörmungandr. With his iron gauntlets, Megingjörd, his belt of strength, and his hammer Mjolnir, Thor embodies the protective aspect of divine power, a guardian of both gods and humans against chaos. In stark contrast stands Loki, the trickster whose fluid nature defies categorization. Neither fully god nor giant, Loki's role in Norse mythology is that of a catalyst, sometimes helping the gods, sometimes causing chaos, but always driving the narrative forward. His children, the wolf Fenrir, the Midgard serpent Jörmungandr, and Hel, ruler of the underworld, represent forces that will ultimately bring about Ragnarok. The complicated relationship between Thor and Loki is beautifully illustrated in the tale of the theft of Mjolnir. When Thor's hammer is stolen by the giant Thrymr, it is Loki who devises the plan to recover it, convincing Thor to dress as Freya in a wedding dress. This story showcases both the humor and the serious undertones of Norse mythology. The preservation of cosmic order sometimes requires unorthodox methods. The distinction between the Aesir and Vanir gods represents a fascinating aspect of Norse mythology. The Vanir, including Freya, and Njörður, are associated with fertility, prosperity, and natural cycles. Their war with the Aesir, ultimately resolved through exchange of hostages and shared wisdom, suggests an ancient understanding of the need to balance different forms of power. Freya, in particular, stands as one of the most complex divine figures. As a goddess of love and fertility, death and war, magic, material abundance. She represents a powerful feminine force that transcends simple categorization. The heroes of Norse mythology serve as bridges between the divine and human realms. Their stories often illustrate the complex relationship between fate, personal choice, and divine intervention. Sigurd, or Siegfried, the dragon slayer, represents the archetypal hero whose story contains elements that would influence epic literature for centuries to come. After slaying the dragon Fafnir, Sigurd gains the ability to understand the language of birds, which warn him of betrayal. His tragic love story with the Valkyrie Brynhild, complicated by magical deception and oaths of loyalty, showcases the complex moral universe of Norse mythology. The Volsunga saga, which tells Sigurd's story, interweaves themes of heroic achievement, tragic love, family loyalty and betrayal, the price of knowledge, the inexorable nature of fate. Another significant hero is Beowulf. Though his story comes from Anglo-Saxon tradition, it reflects strong Norse influences. His battles against Grendel, Grendel's mother, and finally a dragon, represent the heroic ideal of facing monsters that threaten human civilization, even at the cost of one's own life. The Valkyries occupy a unique position in Norse mythology, serving as both divine beings and active participants in human affairs. These warrior women, riding through the skies on their winged horses, choose who lives and dies in battle, selecting the most valorous warriors to join Odin's Einherjar in Valhalla. The story of the Valkyrie Brynhild, who defied Odin's will and was punished by being put into a magical sleep surrounded by a ring of fire, only to be awakened by a hero who would know no fear, represents the complex interplay between divine duty and personal choice. The family dynamics among the gods reflect human relationships while operating on a cosmic scale. The story of Baldur's death serves as perhaps the most poignant example of how family tragedy interweaves with cosmic significance. Baldur, Odin and Frigg's beloved son, was the most beautiful and beloved of all the gods. His prophetic dreams of his own death led Frigg to extract oaths from everything in creation not to harm him, except the seemingly harmless mistletoe. Loki's exploitation of this oversight, leading to Baldur's death by his blind brother Hörder's unwitting hand, sets in motion events that will ultimately lead to Ragnarok. This tragic tale illustrates several key themes like the limitations of divine power, the inevitability of fate, the price of knowledge, the complex nature of betrayal, the ripple effects of individual actions on cosmic scales. A recurring theme in Norse mythology is that power, whether divine or mortal, always comes at a price. Odin's sacrifice of his eye for wisdom, Thor's dependence on his tools like belt, hammer and gauntlets, and the gods' need to constantly defend their realm against giants, all suggest that power is not absolute, but conditional. This understanding creates a unique dynamic where gods and heroes are not all-powerful beings, but rather figures who must constantly work to maintain their position and fulfill their roles in the cosmic order. Their struggles, failures, and occasional triumphs resonate with human experience while operating on a divine scale. In the Norse world, the boundary between the sacred and the mundane was remarkably fluid. Unlike other religious traditions that built grand temples isolated from daily life, Norse worship often occurred in spaces that were integrated into the landscape and community. The most significant of these were the Great Hall. These structures served as both communal gathering places and religious centers. At their heart would often burn a sacred fire, never allowed to die out, symbolizing the community's connection to the gods. Archaeological evidence suggests that offerings were often hung from trees in these groves, creating what Arab travelers described as forests of the hanged. The practice of Norse magic was an integral part of religious practice, though it occupied an ambiguous position. Primarily associated with women, Seidkonur, it was considered unseemly for men to practice, with Odin being a notable exception. Saida practitioners would use a special platform, Seidjala, for their ceremonies, enter trance states to travel between worlds, practice divination to see possible futures, perform weather magic and influence luck, communicate with spirits and the dead. The arrival of Christianity led to various responses, like some practitioners attempted to blend the old and new religions, seeing Christ as another god to be added to the pantheon. Others, particularly in Iceland, maintained traditional practices alongside formal Christian conversion. Many Norse religious concepts were transformed rather than abandoned, with saints taking on roles previously held by gods. This complex relationship between old and new beliefs helped preserve much of our knowledge of Norse mythology, as Christian scholars recorded the old stories even as the religion itself was changing. Norse mythological tradition stands unique. At its heart lies a sophisticated philosophical framework that continues to resonate with modern minds, offering insights into the nature of existence, fate, and human purpose. The relationship between fate and free will emerges as one of the most compelling philosophical aspects of Norse mythology. Unlike other mythological traditions, where heroes and gods often attempt to escape or outsmart their destiny, Norse mythology presents a more nuanced and mature understanding. The gods know their fate, the coming of Ragnarok, yet choose to fight against it anyway. This creates a fascinating paradox, where foreknowledge doesn't lead to resignation, but rather to a deeper form of courage. The emphasis shifts from whether one can escape destiny to how one faces it, suggesting that true character is revealed not in victory or defeat, but in the manner of confronting inevitable challenges. The cycle of creation and destruction forms another fundamental theme woven through Norse mythology, suggesting that creation necessarily involves the transformation of what came before. This theme reaches its ultimate expression in Ragnarok, which serves not just as an ending, but as a prelude to renewal. The moral complexity of Norse mythology sets it apart from simpler good versus evil narratives. Gods can be both beneficial and destructive. Giants aren't purely evil, but represent forces of nature that must be contained. This nuanced approach to morality suggests a worldview that recognizes the necessity of both creative and destructive forces in maintaining cosmic balance. Actions are judged not by abstract moral principles, but by their consequences and the honor with which they are undertaken. These themes remain surprisingly relevant to modern concerns. The sophistication with which Norse mythology handles these themes helps explain its enduring influence and continuing relevance to contemporary discussions of human nature, society, and cosmic purpose. Like the gods facing their prophesied doom, we too must find the courage to face our challenges while maintaining integrity and hope for renewal. The greatest legacy of Norse mythology may be its demonstration that even in the face of inevitable change and challenge, courage, wisdom, and honor remain the truest guides for human action. From the frostbitten lands of the Norse, we pivot to the sunlit shores of the Mediterranean, where Greek mythology shapes a rich tapestry of gods, heroes, and epic tales that have influenced art and storytelling for centuries. In the depths of time, when the world was young and the boundaries between the divine and mortal realms were thin, there existed a tapestry of tales so magnificent that they continue to captivate hearts and minds millennia later. Picture, if you will, the moment when Prometheus defied the mighty Zeus himself, stealing fire from Mount Olympus to gift it to humanity. This single act of divine defiance would forever change the course of human history, marking the beginning of civilization's ascent from darkness into light. The ancient Greeks lived in a world where every natural phenomenon, every human emotion, and every twist of fate was attributed to the machinations of their gods. From the mighty peaks of Mount Olympus to the mysterious depths of Hades, their universe was alive with divine presence. These stories emerged during the Bronze Age, flourishing particularly between 2000 BCE and 146 BCE, when Greece fell to Rome. Yet even conquest couldn't diminish the power of these tales. For the ancient Greeks, mythology wasn't merely entertainment. It was the framework through which they understood their world. These stories served as their science, explaining natural phenomena like thunder and earthquakes. They were their history, recording the deeds of great heroes and the founding of cities. They were their moral compass, teaching values and cautioning against hubris. Most importantly, they were their connection to the divine, helping them make sense of their place in a vast and often mysterious universe. In the beginning, there was only chaos, a primordial void of infinite darkness and possibility. From this formless abyss emerged Gaia, Earth, Tartarus, the underworld, and Eros, love. Gaia, the Great Mother, gave birth to Uranus, sky, and together they became the first divine couple, parents to the mighty Titans. But this first family was marked by violence and betrayal. Uranus, fearing his children's power, imprisoned them within Gaia's womb, causing her great pain. In response, she crafted a great sickle and beseeched her youngest son, Cronus, to overthrow his father. Cronus obliged, castrating Uranus and casting him away. From the blood that fell upon the earth sprang the Furies, giants, and Melee nymphs, while from the foam that formed where his severed parts fell into the sea arose Aphrodite, goddess of love and beauty. Yet Cronus proved no better than his father. Having learned that he would be overthrown by his own child, he swallowed each of his offspring at birth. His wife Rhea, desperate to save her youngest child, wrapped a stone in swaddling clothes for Cronus to swallow instead, hiding away the infant Zeus on the island of Crete. When Zeus grew to maturity, he forced Cronus to disgorge his siblings and led a great war against the Titans, eventually emerging victorious and establishing the reign of the Olympian gods. This creation myth reflects profound truths about how the Greeks viewed the universe, as a place that emerged from chaos into order, where power must be seized and maintained through strength and cunning, and where each generation must struggle against its predecessors to establish its place in the cosmic order. Atop Mount Olympus, the highest peak in Greece, resided the 12 main Olympian gods, ruling over both the divine and mortal realms with unmatched power and often temperamental authority. Zeus, the king of gods, wielded thunderbolts and commanded the skies, having won his position through victory in the great Titanomachy. His marriage to Hera, though marked by his countless infidelities, established the divine royal couple who would oversee the pantheon's complex family dynamics. Poseidon, Zeus's brother, claimed dominion over the seas, wielding his mighty trident to create storms or calm waters at will. The third brother, Hades, though not technically an Olympian due to his residence in the underworld, commanded respect as ruler of the dead and guardian of earthly riches. These three brothers essentially divided the world among themselves, sky, sea, and underworld, while sharing dominion over the earth. Among the goddesses, each commanded unique spheres of influence. Athena, sprung fully formed from Zeus's head, became the goddess of wisdom, strategic warfare, and crafts. Artemis, Apollo's twin sister, ruled over the hunt, the moon, and wild places, while maintaining her fierce independence and virginity. Aphrodite, whether born of Uranus's sea foam or Zeus and Dione, wielded the powerful forces of love and beauty, causing both pleasure and chaos among gods and mortals alike. Apollo, god of light, music, prophecy, and healing, represented the height of divine perfection and artistry. His half-brother Hermes served as messenger of the gods, patron of travelers, merchants, and thieves, moving freely between all realms. Ares embodied the brutal aspects of warfare, while Hephaestus, though lame, created divine weapons and artifacts of unmatched beauty in his volcanic forge. Demeter and Dionysus, though sometimes overlooked, held immense power over human survival and pleasure. She as goddess of agriculture and grain, he as god of wine, ecstasy, and theatre. Their worship often involved elaborate festivals and mysteries that deeply influenced Greek cultural life. The Greeks' greatest heroes embodied both extraordinary abilities and tragic flaws, their stories serving as cautionary tales about the price of greatness and the dangers of hubris. Perhaps none exemplifies this better than Heracles, Roman Hercules, son of Zeus and the mortal Alcman. His 12 labors, performed as penance for killing his own family in a fit of madness induced by Hera, showcased superhuman strength while highlighting the burden of divine heritage. Perseus, another son of Zeus, demonstrated cunning and bravery in his quest to slay the Gorgon Medusa, aided by divine gifts, but succeeding through his own wit and courage. His tale teaches the value of divine favor while emphasizing human ingenuity and determination. The tragic figure of Theseus, founder king of Athens, slayed the Minotaur and united Attica, yet his story is marked by hubris and personal failure. His abandonment of Ariadne and tragic death of his son Hippolytus remind us that even the greatest heroes can fall victim to their own flaws. Odysseus, the crafty king of Ithaca, exemplified Greek ideals of intelligence and adaptability. His 10-year journey home from Troy, as chronicled in Homer's Odyssey, became a metaphor for life's challenges and the virtues of perseverance and wisdom. Unlike purely martial heroes, Odysseus succeeded through wit as much as strength, reflecting a sophisticated understanding of heroic virtue. Jason and his Argonauts represented collective heroism, assembling the greatest heroes of their age to retrieve the Golden Fleece. Their journey showcased both the power of cooperation and the price of betrayal, particularly in Jason's tragic relationship with Medea. The Greek mythological landscape teemed with extraordinary beings, each serving as a reflection of natural forces, human fears, or moral lessons. Among the most fearsome was the Minotaur, half man and half bull, imprisoned in the labyrinth of Crete. This creature, born from divine punishment and human hubris, represented the bestial aspects of human nature trapped within the maze of civilization. The Gorgons, with Medusa being the most famous, embodied feminine rage and the power to petrify, literally and figuratively. Once a beautiful maiden, Medusa's transformation into a snake-haired monster whose gaze turned men to stone served as a complex metaphor for female power and the consequences of divine punishment. Her death at Perseus's hands and the subsequent birth of Pegasus from her blood demonstrated the Greek belief in transformation and renewal, even through violence. The Hydra, with its multiple heads that multiplied when cut off, represented the futility of tackling problems through brute force alone. Heracles' eventual triumph over this beast by cauterizing each neck stump taught the value of strategy over strength. Similarly, the Chimera, a fire-breathing hybrid of lion, goat, and serpent, symbolized the chaos that results when natural boundaries are transgressed. Mythical beings weren't all monstrous, however. Centaurs, half horse and half human, embodied the tension between civilization and natural instincts. While most were wild and unruly, the wise centaur Chiron served as teacher to many Greek heroes, representing the possibility of harmonizing human intellect with natural wisdom. The satyrs, companions of Dionysus, celebrated natural impulses and physical pleasures, while nymphs personified the living spirit of nature in its most beautiful forms. Greek mythology served as a sophisticated moral framework, though not in the simplistic manner of later morality tales. The gods themselves were flawed, capable of pettiness, jealousy, and cruelty, yet they demanded respect and proper behavior from mortals. This complex dynamic taught Greeks to navigate a world where power and justice didn't always align perfectly. The concept of hubris, excessive pride or self-confidence that offends the gods, was central to Greek moral thinking. Countless myths warned against it. Arachne, turned into a spider for boasting her weaving, surpassed Athena's. Niobe, whose children were slain after she mocked Leto's mere two offspring. Icarus, who flew too close to the sun with his wax wings. These tales taught that even exceptional talent must be tempered with humility. Xenia, or hospitality, represented another crucial value. Zeus himself was sometimes called Zeus Xenios, protector of guests. The principle that travelers must be welcomed and protected produced stories like Baucis and Philemon, the humble couple who hosted disguised gods and were rewarded with eternal life together. Conversely, those who violated Xenia, like the transgressive King Sisyphus, faced eternal punishment. Family loyalty, despite its complications, remained paramount. Antigone's determination to bury her brother despite royal prohibition, Orpheus's journey to the underworld to retrieve his wife Eurydice, and even Demeter's earth-shaking grief over her daughter Persephone's abduction, all highlighted the power of family bonds. Yet these same stories often revealed the tragic consequences when family loyalty conflicted with other obligations. The myths also explored the complexity of justice and revenge. The house of Atreus, cursed through generations of revenge killings, demonstrated how violence begets violence. Orestes' trial for matricide, with Apollo defending him and the Furies prosecuting, showed the evolution from blood revenge to civic justice under divine oversight. The Greek conception of the afterlife painted a complex picture of existence beyond death, centered around the realm of Hades. Unlike later religious traditions, the Greek underworld wasn't primarily a place of punishment or reward, but rather a shadow realm where most souls continued a diminished version of their earthly existence. The journey to the underworld began with Hermes' Psychopompos, soul guide, leading spirits to the river Styx, where the ferryman Charon would transport them across, provided they had been properly buried with a coin beneath their tongue. Those without proper burial rites were condemned to wander the shores for 100 years, emphasizing the crucial importance of funeral customs in Greek society. Within Hades' realm, different regions accommodated different categories of the dead. The Elysian Fields, a paradise reserved for heroes and those blessed by the gods, offered eternal happiness and comfort. Tartarus, the deepest pit, held imprisoned titans and the worst offenders against divine law, while the asphodel meadows housed the majority of ordinary souls in a kind of twilight existence, neither suffering nor experiencing joy. Famous condemned souls illustrated different aspects of divine justice. Sisyphus, eternally rolling his boulder uphill for deceiving the gods, represented the futility of trying to outsmart death. Tantalus, eternally hungry and thirsty with food and water just out of reach, showed the punishment for hubris and betrayal of divine hospitality. Ixion, bound to an eternally spinning wheel for attempting to seduce Hera, demonstrated the consequences of violating sacred guest-host relationships. Unlike some mythological traditions, Greek mythology didn't feature a definitive end times narrative. Instead, it presented cycles of destruction and renewal, with each age giving way to the next through various cataclysms. Hesiod's Ages of Man, golden, silver, bronze, heroic and iron, described a general decline in human virtue and proximity to the divine, though not an absolute end. The most comprehensive destruction myth was the Great Flood, sent by Zeus to end the Bronze Age when human wickedness became intolerable. Only Deucalion and Pyrrha survived. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed exploring these fascinating mythologies, Egyptian, Slavic, Norse, Greek, Celtic, Yoruba and Aztec, don't forget to give this video a like, share it with others who love diving into ancient stories, and subscribe to the channel for more captivating myths and legends. Hit the bell icon so you never miss an update. By Zeus to end the Bronze Age when human wickedness became intolerable. Only Deucalion and Pyrrha survived, repopulating the world by throwing stones over their shoulders, which became new humans. This story, echoing flood myths from many cultures, emphasized both divine judgment and the possibility of renewal. Prometheus's prophecy of Zeus's potential overthrow by a son of Thetis suggested the possibility of another divine succession, though this was averted when Zeus arranged for Thetis to marry the mortal Peleus. This story hints at an underlying tension in Greek mythology, the fear that the current divine order, like those before it, might be overthrown. Various oracles and prophecies spoke of potential future calamities, but these were typically localized rather than universal. The Greeks seem more concerned with maintaining the current cosmic order through proper ritual and behavior than with preparing for an ultimate end. This perspective reflected their cyclical view of time and their focus on maintaining harmony between human and divine spheres in the present. The concept of eternal return, that historical and cosmic events might repeat in cycles, appeared in some Greek philosophical traditions, suggesting that even major catastrophes were part of a larger pattern rather than a final ending. This aligned with Greek ideas about fate and destiny being woven into the fabric of existence by the three Moirai, fates. Legacy in modern culture. The influence of Greek mythology permeates modern culture so deeply that we often invoke its elements without realizing their origins. From corporate logos to psychological terms, from literary allusions to popular entertainment, the legacy of these ancient stories continues to shape our cultural landscape. In literature, countless modern works draw directly from Greek mythological sources. James Joyce's Ulysses reimagines Odysseus's journey in 20th century Dublin, while Rick Riordan's Percy Jackson series introduces young readers to the pantheon through contemporary adventure stories. Influence extends dramatically into popular culture. Marvel's Thor, though primarily based on Norse mythology, incorporates Greek mythological elements in its cosmic storytelling. Video games like God of War reimagine the violent interactions between gods and heroes for modern audiences. Even Disney's Hercules, though significantly sanitized, introduced a generation of children to the basic framework of Greek mythology. In the mist-shrouded valleys of ancient Ireland, where the wind whispers tales of old through ancient stone circles, there lived a people who saw magic in every ripple of water and every rustle of leaves. Our story begins with the tale of Etain, a woman of such extraordinary beauty that she transcended mortality itself. Transformed into a butterfly by a jealous rival, she drifted on the winds for 1,000 years before being reborn as a mortal princess, only to find herself at the center of a love story that would span millennia. This enchanting tale serves as our gateway into the rich tapestry of Celtic mythology, a belief system that flourished throughout the British Isles and parts of continental Europe from the Iron Age until the advent of Christianity. Unlike the structured pantheons of Greece or Rome, Celtic mythology emerged from a decentralized oral tradition, passed down through generations by skilled storytellers known as Fili in Ireland and Sinferd in Wales. The Celts themselves were not a single unified people, but rather a collection of tribes sharing similar languages, artistic styles, and religious beliefs. Their world was one where the boundary between the mundane and the magical was perpetually thin, where every hill might house a fairy court, and every well could be a gateway to the other world. This mythology mattered deeply to its people because it explained not just the creation of their world, but also provided a framework for understanding their place within it. The myths served as repositories of tribal history, moral guidance, and social law. They explained the changing of seasons, the importance of oaths, and the sacred bonds between the people and their land. Most importantly, these stories reminded the Celts that they lived in a universe alive with meaning, where even the smallest stream might have its own goddess, and every ancient oak its own spirit. Unlike many other mythological traditions, Celtic creation myths are surprisingly elusive. The ancient Celts seemed more concerned with cycles of existence rather than absolute beginnings. However, from various sources, we can piece together a fascinating tapestry of how they believed their world came to be. In Irish tradition, before there was time, there was only the mist. From this primordial fog emerged Danu, the mother goddess, who brought forth the waters of life. The land arose from these waters, and with it came the first stirrings of consciousness. The Tuatha De Danann, the tribe of the goddess Danu, were born from this divine union of water and earth. The world, as the Celts knew it, emerged through successive waves of invasion and transformation, each bringing new gods and peoples. According to the Lebor Gabala Eren, the Book of Invasions, Ireland was settled by 6 different groups, each adding their own layer to the world's creation. The Partholonians, the Nemedians, the Firbolg, the Tuatha De Danann, and finally the Milesians all played their part in shaping the land. Perhaps most significant was the arrival of the Tuatha De Danann, who brought with them 4 magical treasures: the sword of light of Nuada, the spear of Lugh, the cauldron of the Dagda, and the stone of Fal. These objects represented not just magical power, but the very elements that sustained life: fire, air, water, and earth. Their arrival marked the beginning of what many consider the golden age of Irish mythology. The creation myth emphasizes recurring themes that would become central to Celtic mythology: the importance of sacred objects, the power of natural forces, and the idea that creation is not a single event, but an ongoing process. The land itself was seen as alive and conscious, with each hill, river, and forest having its own spirit and story. Unlike the rigid hierarchies of other mythologies, Celtic deities often shifted roles and attributes, their powers flowing like the rivers they inhabited. Main gods and goddesses, the Dagda, whose name means the good god, stands as one of the most prominent figures. Known as the father figure of the pantheon, he possessed a magical cauldron of plenty that never emptied, a club that could both kill and restore life, and a harp that could command the seasons. Despite his immense power, he was often portrayed with a sense of humor, wearing simple clothes and carrying an enormous porridge pot. Brigid, perhaps the most beloved goddess, embodied the triple aspect of poetry, healing, and smithcraft. Her influence was so profound that she was later absorbed into Christian tradition as Saint Brigid. Sacred fires were kept burning in her honor, and her festival Imbolc marked the beginning of spring. Lugh, the master of all arts, represented the pinnacle of Celtic divine skill. Known as Samildanach, skilled in many arts, he carried a magical spear that never missed its mark. His festival Lugnasad celebrated the harvest and featured contests of skill and strength. Morrigan, the great queen, appeared as a trinity of goddesses associated with war, fate, and death. She could shapeshift into a crow, and her appearance on the battlefield often foretold doom for those who saw her. Yet she also represented sovereignty and the sacred relationship between the king and the land. Cernunnos, the horned god, though his name comes to us from limited sources, represented the wild forces of nature. Depicted with antlers and surrounded by animals, he embodied the connection between the human and natural worlds, hierarchy and dynamics. Rather than a strict hierarchy, Celtic deities operated in a complex web of relationships. Power often shifted based on the season, the need, or the story being told. The Tuatha De Danann functioned more like a divine tribe than a structured pantheon, with leaders chosen for their wisdom and ability rather than through divine right. Interestingly, Celtic deities often had multiple aspects or manifestations. A goddess might appear as a young maiden, a mother, or a crone, depending on the context. Gods could be both beneficent and terrible, reflecting the Celtic understanding that nature itself contains both creation and destruction. Sacred marriages and partnerships played a crucial role. The relationship between divine couples often represented the marriage between the sovereign and the land itself, a central concept in Celtic theology. The goddess of sovereignty would choose and legitimize the king, symbolizing the sacred contract between ruler and realm. The gods were not seen as distant, unreachable figures, but as beings who could be encountered in sacred places, at wells, in groves, or at the crossing of roads. They were deeply connected to the landscape, with each deity associated with particular locations, features, or natural phenomena. This intimate connection between deities and the physical world reflected the Celtic belief that the divine was immanent in nature rather than transcendent above it. Each god or goddess might have multiple local manifestations, leading to a rich tapestry of regional variations in worship and story. The pantheon also included numerous lesser deities and supernatural beings. The Aossi, fairy folk, were believed to be members of the Tuatha De Danann, who retreated into the otherworld after the coming of mortals. They continued to interact with the human world through various portals and at certain times of the year, particularly at festivals like Samhain. The Celtic tradition is rich with tales of mortal heroes whose exploits rival those of the gods themselves. These stories, known as cycles, reveal much about Celtic values, ideals, and the complex relationship between the human and divine worlds. Cuchulainn, the greatest hero of Ulster, embodies the fierce warrior spirit of Celtic mythology. Born as Setanta, he earned his name by killing a fierce guard dog and offering to take its place. His tales are filled with supernatural feats, including his famous warp spasm, a transformation that made him virtually unbeatable in battle, but terrifyingly monstrous. Despite his superhuman abilities, Cuchulainn's story is deeply human, ending in tragedy when he's forced to fight his best friend and eventually dies standing upright, tied to a stone so that even in death he would face his enemies. Fionn mac Cumhaill leads the Fianna, a band of elite warriors, in tales that blend martial prowess with wisdom and magic. His acquisition of knowledge comes from an unusual source. By burning his thumb while cooking the salmon of knowledge, he gains the ability to access profound wisdom whenever he sucks his thumb. Fionn's stories often involve the intersection between the mortal world and the otherworld, highlighting the Celtic belief that these realms were intimately connected. Queen Medb of Connaught represents a different kind of hero, a sovereign queen whose power lies in her political acumen and fierce determination. The instigator of the Tainn Bó Cúailnge, the cattle raid of Cooley. She embodies the Celtic acceptance of powerful female figures in both mythology and society. Her story shows that heroism in Celtic tradition wasn't limited to martial prowess, but included cunning, leadership, and force of will. The Celtic otherworld teems with supernatural beings, each serving as a bridge between the natural and supernatural realms. The Selkie, seal women who could shed their skins to walk on land, represent the mysterious connection between land and sea. Their tales often involve romance with humans, but usually end in heartbreak when they reclaim their seal skins and return to the ocean. These stories reflect the Celtic coastal people's complex relationship with the sea, both attraction and fear of its wild nature. The Kelpie, a shape-shifting waterhorse, embodies the dangerous aspect of bodies of water. Appearing as a beautiful black horse, it would lure unwary travelers onto its back, then dive into deep waters to drown and devour them. Dragons in Celtic mythology differ from their continental counterparts. Often called worms, they were associated with wisdom and the power of the land rather than destructive force. The red dragon of Wales, which appears in the Mabinogion, became a national symbol representing the Welsh people's resistance against invasion. Each of these creatures carried deep symbolic meaning. The banshee, whose cry heralded death, represented the thin veil between life and death in Celtic thought. The leprechaun, now often reduced to a cheerful stereotype, originally represented the tricky and potentially dangerous nature of dealing with the fairy folk. These beings weren't merely stories to frighten children. They represented real forces in the Celtic worldview. They explained natural phenomena, enforced social norms, and provided a framework for understanding the mysterious aspects of the world. Their continued presence in folklore long after Christianity became dominant shows how deeply they resonated with people's experience of the world. Celtic mythology presents a complex moral framework that differs significantly from the more absolute good versus evil paradigms found in many other traditions. The stories emphasize certain core values while acknowledging the nuanced nature of human and divine behavior. Honor and reputation stood as paramount virtues in Celtic society, reflected in countless myths where characters risk everything to maintain their good name. The concept of geis, plural gesa, a type of taboo or prohibition, played a crucial role in many stories. These magical injunctions could either grant power or restrict behavior, and breaking them invariably led to tragedy. Cuchulain's death came about precisely because he was forced to choose between conflicting Gesa, highlighting how even the most heroic figures could be trapped by competing obligations. Hospitality ranked as another crucial value, with numerous tales warning of the consequences of violating guest right. The proper treatment of visitors wasn't just good manners, it was a sacred obligation, as any stranger might be a god in disguise. This belief fostered a culture of generosity and openness, though always tempered with caution, as supernatural visitors could be dangerous as well as beneficial, and the ability to speak well was considered a mark of nobility. Afterlife beliefs, the Celtic conception of the afterlife, was notably different from the heaven-hell dichotomy familiar to modern audiences. Instead of a final destination, they envisioned Tir na Nog, the land of youth, and other otherworld realms that existed alongside our own, separated only by a thin veil. The otherworld wasn't strictly a realm of the dead. It was a place where time moved differently, where magic was commonplace, and where both the living and the dead might travel under certain circumstances. Stories tell of heroes who visited these realms and returned, though often at great cost. The tale of Oisin, who spent what seemed like 3 years in Tir na Nog, only to find 300 had passed in the mortal world, illustrates the dangerous difference between mortal and immortal time. places called seed hay, fairy mounds, were believed to be entrances to the other world. These were often actual archaeological sites, burial mounds and hill forts that gained magical associations over time. The dead were thought to dwell in these places, neither completely gone nor fully present, but existing in a state that allowed them to occasionally interact with the living. The Celtic view of death was cyclic rather than linear. Reincarnation appears in several myths, with characters being reborn in different forms over multiple lifetimes. This belief reflected the natural cycles of death and rebirth observed in nature, linking human existence to the eternal rhythm of the seasons. Rather than fearing death, the Celts seemed to view it as a transition rather than an ending. The festival of Samhain, modern Halloween, marked the time when the veil between worlds was thinnest, allowing contact between the living and the dead. This wasn't necessarily seen as frightening. It was a time to honor ancestors and acknowledge the continuity between past and present, life and death. Unlike the dramatic apocalyptic visions found in Norse mythology or Christian tradition, Celtic end times myths tend to focus more on cycles of transformation rather than final destruction. This reflects their general worldview that saw existence as circular rather than linear. The prophecy of the Morrigan, delivered after the Second Battle of Mag Tuired, describes a time of moral decay rather than physical destruction. I shall not see a world which will be dear to me, summer without blossoms, cattle without milk, women without modesty, men without valor, conquests without a king. This vision emphasizes social and moral decline rather than physical destruction, suggesting that the end of an era comes through the degradation of values rather than cosmic catastrophe. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed exploring these fascinating mythologies, Egyptian, Slavic, Norse, Greek, Celtic, Yoruba, and Aztec, don't forget to give this video a like, share it with others who love diving into ancient stories, and subscribe to the channel for more captivating myths and legends. Hit the bell icon so you never miss an update. In the ancient lands of West Africa, where the winds whisper tales as old as time itself, there exists a mythology so rich and profound that its echoes still resonate through the centuries. The story begins in a time when the line between the divine and mortal realms was thin as spider silk, when Olodumare, the supreme god, first breathed life into the universe. This is the world of Yoruba mythology, a tapestry of tales that has shaped the spiritual and cultural landscape of millions. Picture yourself in a traditional Yoruba village, where the evening air fills with the rhythmic beating of talking drums. An elder, his face etched with wisdom, gathers the community around the communal fire. Tonight, as on countless nights before, he will share the stories that have been passed down through generations, stories that explain not just the creation of the world, but the very essence of human existence. The significance of Yoruba mythology extends far beyond mere storytelling. These sacred narratives served as the foundation of a complex spiritual system that would eventually spread across continents, influencing religions and cultural practices from West Africa to the Caribbean, South America, and beyond. For the Yoruba people, these myths were not simply tales. They were and still are living bridges between the physical world, Aye, and the spiritual realm. In the beginning, there was only Olodumare, the supreme being dwelling in the endless expanse of both sky and water. The universe existed in two realms, Orun, heaven, above, and the watery chaos of primordial existence below. Between these realms lay nothing but vast emptiness. Olodumare looked upon this void and decided to create order from chaos. For this momentous task, he sent his trusted Orisa deity, Obatala, providing him with a chain of gold, a snail's shell filled with sacred sand, a white hen, and a black cat. Obatala descended the golden chain from heaven, sprinkling the sand upon the endless waters. The white hen began pecking and scratching at the sand, spreading it to create dry land, while the black cat moved back and forth, ensuring the world remained in balance. However, this version of creation intertwines with another equally important narrative, where Oduduwa, rather than Obatala, becomes the creator of physical land. As the story goes, Obatala, on his way to perform his sacred duty, became intoxicated by palm wine. Seeing this, Olodumare sent Oduduwa to complete the task instead. This divine drama would later reflect in the complex relationship between these two deities and their earthly representatives, teaching important lessons about responsibility, destiny, and the consequences of actions. View at the apex of the Yoruba pantheon stands Olodumare, also known as Olorun, the supreme being who embodies the principles of creation, justice, and destiny. Unlike the gods of many other mythologies, Olodumare remains somewhat distant from daily human affairs, delegating various aspects of creation and maintenance to the Orishas, who serve as intermediaries between the divine and human realms. Below Olodumare exists a complex hierarchy of Orishas, each with distinct personalities, domains of influence, and sacred responsibilities. Among the most prominent is Eshu, also known as Elegba, the divine trickster and messenger between the realms, whose presence is invoked first in any ritual to ensure proper communication with the divine world. Yemoja, the mother of all Orishas and guardian of the living waters, represents motherhood, protection, and the essence of life itself. Her waters are said to flow through all rivers, and her influence extends to all aspects of feminine power and fertility. Shango, the powerful Orisa of thunder and lightning, once ruled as the fourth king of the ancient Oyo Empire before becoming deified. His symbols, the double-headed axe and the sacred drums, represent justice, masculine power, and the raw forces of nature. His three wives, Oya, goddess of winds and storms, Oshun, deity of fresh waters and love, and Oba, goddess of domestic harmony, each possess their own formidable powers and devoted followers. Ogun, the fierce deity of iron, technology and war, blazed the path between heaven and earth with his mighty machete. He represents both creation and destruction, being the patron of blacksmiths, warriors, and all who work with metal. In modern times, his domain has expanded to include automobiles and machinery, showing how ancient deities adapt to contemporary life. Obatala, the deity of creation and wisdom, is often depicted wearing brilliant white robes that symbolize purity and moral righteousness. Known as the sculptor of human bodies, he is particularly concerned with physical perfection and is considered the protector of the disabled, whom he shaped during moments of divine distraction. Among the most celebrated human figures in Yoruba mythology is Moremi Ajasoro, the legendary queen of Ile-Ife who sacrificed everything to save her people. When mysterious raiders, believed to be spirits, repeatedly attacked her city, Moremi allowed herself to be captured to learn their secrets. Her courage and cunning led to the defeat of the raiders, though her victory came at the great personal cost of sacrificing her only son to fulfill a vow to the river deity. The tale of Ozidi, the warrior king blessed with supernatural powers, showcases the Yoruba belief in destiny and divine justice. Born posthumously to a murdered father, Ozidi grew to become a legendary warrior whose adventures tested the limits of human potential and divine favor. His story teaches that true strength comes not just from physical prowess, but from righteousness and adherence to one's destined path. Sango's human origin story deserves special mention as it bridges the gap between mortal and divine. As the third Alafin, king of Oyo, his mastery over lightning and his fierce temperament led to his deification after death. His transformation from mortal king to powerful Orisa illustrates the Yoruba belief in the potential for human transcendence through exceptional deeds and character. Mythical creatures and monsters. The Yoruba spiritual world teems with mysterious beings that inhabit the spaces between the visible and invisible realms. The Egber, weeping spirits of the forest, carry precious mats that are said to bring wealth to anyone who can capture them, though the price of such riches often proves too high for mortal souls. Ajantala, the mysterious child who spoke and walked from birth, represents the concept of the Abiku, children who cycle between life and death, tormenting their mothers with repeated births and deaths. These spirits teach profound lessons about the fragility of life and the complex relationship between the physical and spiritual realms. The Akpalata, a fearsome three-headed monster that guards sacred spaces, embodies the Yoruba belief that power and danger often coexist in the spiritual realm. Its presence in myths serves as a warning about the consequences of trespassing in sacred spaces and the importance of respecting spiritual boundaries. The enigmatic Iroko spirit dwells within the sacred Iroko tree, demanding respect and offerings from those who dare to approach. Stories tell of woodcutters who failed to perform proper rituals before felling these trees, only to meet tragic ends or face perpetual misfortune. This creature spirit exemplifies the Yoruba belief in the animated nature of the natural world and the importance of maintaining harmony with environmental forces. Among the most feared creatures is the Oro, a mysterious entity whose voice brings dread during certain festivals. The sound of the Oro, created by a bull roarer instrument, signals times of spiritual significance when women and uninitiated must remain indoors. This creature represents the delicate balance between public and secret knowledge in Yoruba society. The Adze, shape-shifting beings who appear as fireflies by night but transform into human form by day, represent the complex interplay between appearance and reality in Yoruba mythology. These creatures teach valuable lessons about discernment and the hidden nature of spiritual threats. Central to Yoruba mythology is the concept of Iwa Pele, good character, which encompasses gentleness, discipline, and respect for divine and human authority. The myths consistently reinforce that personal character weighs more heavily than sacrifice or ritual in determining one's destiny. The principle of cosmic balance, or itumo, appears throughout the mythology. Stories often demonstrate how excessive behavior, whether in success, power, or wealth, invites divine correction. This is illustrated in the tale of Oba, who lost her ear trying to compete for Shango's love, teaching that jealousy and excessive ambition lead to self-destruction. The mythology emphasizes collective responsibility through the concept of ojuz, duty. Tales of heroes and gods frequently highlight how individual actions affect the entire community, reinforcing the interconnected nature of existence. The story of how Orunmila established divination exemplifies this, showing how knowledge must be used for the benefit of all, not just individual gain. Afterlife beliefs. The Yoruba concept of the afterlife is intrinsically linked to the principle of ancestral veneration. They believe in Ile Oro, the house of spirits, where ancestors dwell and maintain connections with their earthly families. This is not a final destination, but rather a transitional realm, where spirits prepare for possible reincarnation. The journey to the afterlife involves crossing the ethereal river, aided by the ferryman deity, Osun. Before this crossing, the spirit must account for its earthly deeds before Olodumare. This accountability reinforces the importance of living a life of good character, as one's actions determine their position in the ancestral hierarchy. A unique aspect of Yoruba afterlife beliefs is the concept of Egungun, masquerade spirits that represent returned ancestors during festivals. These are not mere performances, but sacred manifestations of the dead among the living, maintaining the crucial bridge between worlds. End times myths. Unlike linear apocalyptic narratives found in many world mythologies, Yoruba end-time stories focus on cycles of destruction and renewal. They speak of periodic cleansing events called Ijamba, where imbalances in the cosmic order are corrected through divine intervention. One significant end-times myth tells of a great flood that will come when humans have strayed too far from the path of righteousness. However, this destruction is not final, but serves as a purification, allowing for the emergence of a new, more harmonious world order. Another profound end-times narrative speaks of the Great Dispersion, when the barriers between Orun, heaven, and Ia, earth, will temporarily dissolve. During this time, all Orishas will walk openly among humans, bringing both revelation and judgment. This myth emphasizes the Yoruba belief that endings are really transformations, leading to new forms of existence rather than absolute termination. The prophecy of Ojo Ikehin, the final day, tells of a time when Shango's lightning will cleanse the earth of corruption, while Oya's winds will sweep away the old order. Yet even this, apparently catastrophic event is seen as part of a larger cycle of renewal, highlighting the Yoruba understanding of destruction as a prerequisite for new creation. The mythology's emphasis on balance, character, and the interconnectedness of all things speaks powerfully to contemporary concerns about environmental sustainability, social justice, and spiritual fulfillment. As humanity faces unprecedented challenges, the ancient wisdom of Yoruba mythology offers valuable perspectives on maintaining harmony between progress and tradition, individual and community, material and spiritual realms. Perhaps most significantly, Yoruba mythology reminds us that stories are not mere entertainment but vessels of profound truth. In the heart of ancient Tenochtitlan, where pyramids pierced the sky and incense smoke carried prayers to the heavens, a profound mythology flourished that would shape the destiny of millions. As the sun rose each morning over the Valley of Mexico, priests would climb the steep steps of their temples, their hearts beating in rhythm with an ancient truth, that their world balanced precariously between order and chaos, sustained only by the sacred blood that fed their gods. Let us begin with the tale of the fifth sun, for in this story lies the essence of Aztec thought. The gods had already created and destroyed 4 worlds before ours, each ending in catastrophic failure. The first sun was devoured by jaguars, the second blown away by hurricane winds, the third destroyed by fiery rain, and the fourth drowned in an endless flood. When it came time to create the fifth and current world, the gods gathered in Teotihuacan, the birthplace of creation. They needed a volunteer to become the new sun, to sacrifice themselves for the continuation of existence itself. 2 gods stepped forward, wealthy, proud Tekuchistecatl, and humble, scarred Nanahuatzin. A great fire was built, and after 4 days of fasting, the moment of truth arrived. Tekuchistecatl approached the flames 4 times, but could not bring himself to jump. Then Nanahuatzin, without hesitation, threw himself into the inferno. Seeing this, Tekuchistecatl finally followed. From their sacrifice rose 2 suns in the sky, but the gods knew this could not be. One of the deities threw a rabbit at Tekuchistecatl, dimming his light, thus creating the moon. Nanahuatzin became Tonatiuh, the sun god who would demand sacrifice to continue his daily journey across the sky. This narrative encapsulates the core of Aztec religious thought, the concept of sacrifice as the fundamental force that moves the universe. The Aztecs flourished in central Mexico from the 14th to the 16th centuries CE, building an empire that would become one of the most powerful Mesoamerican civilizations. Their mythology wasn't merely a collection of stories, it was a complex philosophical system that explained the nature of reality itself. The significance of Aztec mythology to its people cannot be overstated. Every aspect of life, from the grandest state ceremonies to the smallest domestic rituals, was governed by their mythological worldview. The Aztecs saw themselves as the people of the sun, chosen by the gods to prevent the apocalypse through ritual sacrifice and warfare. Their capital city, Tenochtitlan, was believed to be the center of the universe, where the vertical axis connecting the heavens, earth, and underworld intersected with the 4 cardinal directions, each associated with different gods and powers. The Aztec creation story begins in the void, in the time before time. In the highest heaven dwelt Ometeotl, the dual god, both male and female, both mother and father to all that would come to be. From Ometeotl emerged 4 sons, the Tezcatlipocas, each associated with a cardinal direction and a color. Blue Tezcatlipoca of the south, white Tezcatlipoca, Quetzalcoatl of the east, red Tezcatlipoca, Xipe of the west, and black Tezcatlipoca of the north. These four gods attempted to create order from chaos, but their first efforts were marked by cosmic struggles and repeated failures. The earth goddess Tlaltecutli was a fearsome monster, part crocodile and part fish, whose endless hunger threatened to devour everything in creation. The gods decided they must destroy her, but in doing so, they would need to use her body to create the world itself. Quetzalcoatl and Tezcatlipoca, transforming themselves into mighty serpents, descended from the heavens and tore Tlaltecutli apart. From her body, they fashioned the physical world. Her back became the earth, her hair transformed into trees and flowers, her eyes formed caves and wells, her mouth became rivers and large bodies of water, and her nose shaped the valleys and mountains. Her grief-stricken cries could be heard in the night, and she would only be consoled by consuming human hearts, thus establishing the necessity of sacrifice to maintain cosmic order. But the creation was not complete without humans to populate it. After several attempts at creating humanity, first from ashes, then from mud, the god Quetzalcoatl journeyed to Mictlan, the underworld, to retrieve the bones of previous generations. These precious bones were ground into flour and mixed with the blood of the gods, finally creating humans who could sustain themselves and worship the deities. The Aztec pantheon was vast and complex, with hundreds of deities organizing the cosmos into a delicate balance of opposing forces. At the pinnacle of this divine hierarchy stood Ometeotl, the dual deity of duality and unity, who rarely interacted directly with the mortal world, but whose energy flowed through all creation. Huitzilopochtli, the principal deity of the Aztec people, was the god of sun and war. Born fully grown and armed for battle from his mother Coatlicue, he defended the cosmic order by defeating his sister Coyolxauhqui and the 400 stars, his brothers. This mythic battle was recreated daily, as Huitzilopochtli fought through the darkness to bring forth the dawn, requiring human sacrifice to maintain his strength. Tlaloc, the ancient god of rain and lightning, ruled over agricultural fertility and the paradise of Tlalocan. His domain was crucial to survival, but he could also bring devastating storms and drought. Alongside him stood his consort Chalchiuhtlicue, goddess of rivers, lakes, and oceans, who protected women in childbirth and ruled over the fourth of the 13 heavens. Quetzalcoatl, the feathered serpent, embodied wisdom, learning, and civilization. As the god of wind and air, he brought the gifts of agriculture, mathematics, and writing to humanity. His eternal conflict with Tezcatlipoca, the smoking mirror, represented the cosmic struggle between light and darkness, order and chaos. Tezcatlipoca himself was one of the most complex and fearsome deities. As the god of destiny, time, and the night sky, he could see all through his obsidian mirror and tested humans through trials and temptations. His name carried multiple meanings: smoking mirror, he who makes slaves of us all, and enemy of both sides, reflecting his multifaceted nature as both creator and destroyer. Coatlicue, she of the serpent skirt, was the earth goddess who gave birth to the moon, stars, and Huitzilopochtli. Her fearsome aspect, decorated with skulls and serpents, represented both the nurturing and devouring aspects of the Earth Mother. Her daughter, Coyolxauhqui, the moon goddess, was dismembered by Huitzilopochtli, and her image at the base of his great temple in Tenochtitlan served as a powerful symbol of cosmic order triumphing over chaos. Mictlantecutli and his wife Mictecatzihuatl ruled over Mictlan, the underworld. Unlike other Mesoamerican cultures that viewed the underworld primarily as a place of punishment, the Aztec Mictlan was simply the destination for those who died ordinary deaths. The journey through the 9 levels of Mictlan took 4 years and required the deceased to overcome numerous challenges. Xipe, our Lord the Flayed One, governed the renewal of vegetation and the changing of seasons. His gruesome appearance, wearing the flayed skin of sacrificial victims, represented the way plants shed their old covering to reveal new growth beneath, making him particularly important to agricultural cycles. The pantheon also included numerous lesser deities who governed specific aspects of life. Xochiquetzal, the goddess of beauty and the arts; Quetzalcoatl, god of medicine and healing; Mayahuel, goddess of maguey and pulque, and hundreds more, each with their own domains, rituals and significance in the complex web of Aztec religious life. The Aztec world was populated by an array of supernatural beings, each serving as a metaphor for natural forces or moral lessons. Among the most fearsome was the Huitzilopochtli, a water-dwelling creature resembling a small dog with a hand at the end of its tail. It would use this hand to grab unwary victims and drag them to watery deaths, targeting specifically those who abused water resources or violated taboos related to water usage. The Cihuateteo were the spirits of women who died in childbirth, considered equivalent to warriors who fell in battle. These fearsome entities would haunt crossroads during certain celestial events, stealing children and causing seizures in young men. Their existence highlighted the Aztec belief that bearing children was a form of combat, equally as noble as warfare. Among the most distinctive creatures were the Tzitzimime, star demons who threatened to descend and devour humanity during solar eclipses. These female skeletal beings represented the stars that become visible during an eclipse, and their threat of cosmic destruction reinforced the importance of maintaining ritual obligations to keep the world in balance. The Nahual, or shapeshifters, occupied a unique position in Aztec mythology. These were not necessarily evil beings, but rather humans with the ability to transform into animals, often serving as guardians or protectors of communities. The concept of the Nahual reflected the Aztec belief in the fluid boundaries between human and animal natures. One of the most enigmatic creatures was the Mixcoatl, or cloud serpent, often depicted as a serpent wrapped in clouds or wearing stellar decorations. This being represented both a deity and a class of atmospheric phenomena, embodying the Aztec tendency to see divine presence in natural events. The dreaded Quinametsin were giants who, according to myth, had built the ancient cities and pyramids found throughout Mexico. Their existence explained the monumental architecture of previous civilizations, while also serving as a warning about the cyclical nature of creation. They had been destroyed in one of the previous suns for their hubris. Among the protection spirits were the Chanique, small beings who guarded bodies of water and could either help or hinder fishermen depending on how they were treated. Their presence in folklore emphasized the importance of maintaining respectful relationships with natural resources. The Aztec mythological tradition embedded profound moral teachings within its complex narratives, establishing a sophisticated ethical framework that guided both individual conduct and societal organization. At its core, Aztec morality centered around the concept of neltilistli, the fundamental truth or rootedness that one should strive to achieve in life. From Egypt to the Aztecs, these myths remind us of the universal quest to understand life, death, and the divine. Each story we've explored holds a mirror to the culture it came from, while also connecting us all through shared themes of heroism, love, and mystery. The journey doesn't end here. These legends continue to inspire and captivate us, showing the power of storytelling across time and space. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed exploring these fascinating mythologies, Egyptian, Slavic, Norse, Greek, Celtic, Yoruba, and Aztec, don't forget to give this video a like. Share it with others who love diving into ancient stories, and subscribe to the channel for more captivating myths and legends. Hit the bell icon so you never miss an update.